What's going on, guys? Today we're going to be talking about episode 8 of the Wheel of Time. It has been a minute, but I'm glad to be back and talking about Wheel of Time. And honestly, I kind of needed that little break away from the show for a little bit and then come back and sort of like talk about it. I have very mixed thoughts about the episode, but let's go through and break it down a little bit, talk about it, and then we'll discuss after my breakdown. I actually really like this opening for the episode. I had a feeling that they were going to do the prologue for the last episode, and I was actually expecting that. Instead, we got something that even like book readers haven't even really seen, which I think the show has done very well. Yes, there have been a lot of changes, but not so much so that I think it's like super distracting, at least for me. But it has also given us like other perspectives of the world. A lot of people just say this is another turning of the wheel. I think you could think about it that way too, but for me, it's giving us like also added scenes that we haven't like seen from the books. So it gives book readers like another extra layer of content to sort of absorb. In this scene, we get like the previous age. We see how futuristic it was. We get to see Lews Therin, and we get to see the Tamerlane seat. I think that's what they called her. And it's really cool to just see how all of this stuff was in a previous age. Now, one thing that I know that fans really didn't like, or some fans didn't like, was that they called him the Dragon Reborn instead of the dragon, because in the books he isn't like the Dragon Reborn. For show context and how like we know already everything like plays out, is that there has been this Dragon Reborn myth like throughout the ages, and that's how like the show continuity is sort of doing it. There has been this Dragon Reborn throughout the ages, so it's just like there's constantly always going to be a Dragon Reborn, if that makes sense. So actually I thought it made sense, but I could get why people are upset, because in the books Lews Therin wasn't the Dragon Reborn, he was the dragon. Anyway, but yeah, it was really cool. I like that whole sequence. Next, we go into the Blight, and we see that everything is sort of that goes in there that's living sort of decays, but also it's like this huge forest area, and more like you just become a part of that like foresty area. You decay, but it's sort of like thriving. The Blight isn't necessarily this like huge like wasteland. It's more of like this overgrown foresty jungle area that everything that goes into it that's living dies and decays. It becomes a part of the ground in this huge nature. I actually really like that. I thought it was super cool. There's a lot of concepts that I've been playing around with this sort of stuff in my own work, and I sort of have this kind of thing going on, but with some other twists and nuances to it. So I really like to see this. My dad loved seeing the Blight this way. I thought it was super cool. After sort of seeing the Blight and the setup of Rand and Moiraine, we go over to Egwene, and Egwene's just like sort of freaking out, wanting to get back to Rand and just scared that he's gonna die and all of this. And then we have Perrin coming in and reconciling, and I think it sort of wraps up their sort of like relationship, or what like people thought that it was more romantic than it actually was. I think it was wrapped up pretty good here, just showing her that he's always there for her, and that she just like loves Rand, and they end up coming to this conclusion that they can't go, so they're gonna have to like do whatever they can here to be able to help out. And I love the scene between Nynaeve and Lan, just because it was a book thing. Like, we rarely get a lot of book things in the show, and we get those touch point of the book things that sort of happen. I geek out a lot. I love what Lan says to Nynaeve. I'll hate the man that you choose, just because that line is from the books, and I really love it. The only thing that I wanted was Nynaeve going with Lan, even though he probably would have protested, but she's very stubborn and would have gone with him, and I think it definitely kind of would have worked for the story. I just had certain expectations that I wanted for this finale that didn't happen, which actually led to a lot of my sort of disappointment. I wanted this scene at the end. I didn't care if everybody was there, but I wanted Nynaeve to be there, because later in the series it's very important what Nynaeve and Rand, they work together a lot to be able to do some really big things in the world. So I was hoping for this really cool scene with Nynaeve finally like gets there, but Rand has already like a beam of light or like something. He's fighting in the air, and she sees him in the air, and she's the only one to first see him like channel and destroy all these Trollocs. Like, that's what I wanted. I had that expectation there, but that was unrealistic, and I'll get into a lot of that stuff later, but I was hoping that Nynaeve would have gone with Lan in that scene. Then we finally see this mysterious character who is dressed in more modern clothing and all of that. There's a fake out death of Moiraine and all this stuff, but the guy who had like the glowing eyes finally reveals himself to just be like a normal human, but with like a lot of power and can go into people's dreams. So as a book reader, I'm like, of course I already know who this is, and I'm just very curious about what show watchers are thinking who this guy is. It's really fun to speculate and figure out what's going on here, and I sort of love this. The suit sort of thing, it wasn't necessarily really modern, but more of the clothing that would fit the old age in here that we've already sort of established. But it kind of threw me off a little bit. It was like, why am I seeing like a dude in a suit, or basically almost kind of looks like a suit in this world? It's kind of throwing me off, but like this is a thing in Jordan's writing. Like these characters have the clothing of, or let me not get into spoilers, but this sort of character, it fits him. It's supposed to. It's what Jordan wrote. These characters are wearing sort of clothing that fit more of that futuristic age. And I really like that touch. It just kind of threw me for the loop a little bit. But the part that I really liked most was after this, after like Rand basically killed himself and got out of that sort of dream, and Moiraine is asking what's going on, and Rand is sort of reluctant to tell her anything. Like he doesn't really want to tell her anything, which I really like about this, because this sets up a lot of relationship stuff with Moiraine and Rand, especially from her being shielded from the source, which is something I'll get into later. It shows that all the power and all the stuff is going to be in Rand's court, and it's really, really interesting. Moraine's gonna have to find other ways to be able to try to reel in Rand, and I know stuff that happens in the books that they're probably going to be pulling from, and I'm really interested how that relationship is going to be playing out. But you could definitely see here where he's just like, I'm not telling you anything, like you don't tell me anything. But that's when we get the Sa'angreal here. We get the Buddha basically, and she tells him that it is basically like the power of 100 channelers, and it goes back to earlier in the episode where Luce Theron was talking about the 100 companions and stuff like that, and that's just a whole like world building thing. Now I am going to get into my sort of rant about the show and continuity with the books. Is I do not like how channeling has just been, or I do not like how weaves have just been like, as long as you feel the emotion, it is going to work. When like that's not how it is in the books at all. Like you need proper training to understand how to do certain weaves, and it starts with Moiraine sort of just being like, oh, like if you feel like it's life and death, you're going to be able to weave the right thing and destroy the Dark One. When it's like, okay, I guess, but more of that complaint is for like just because Egwene's feeling sad, she's like able to heal Nynaeve all the way. I get the moments when Nynaeve does her like burst of emotion, and she's just like able to save everybody. Again, I already had criticism of that where I didn't want that to happen too many times, but to know how to heal somebody, and it just seems like there's no point of the girls going to go and train at the White Tower, and that's a huge thing in the books and all of that. Like if they already know how to do everything, it would be cool to be like, it's easier for them, because obviously it is, they get raised, well, a lot of things happen in the books that I won't really get into, but it would make sense if it's just easier for them to understand the weaves, but they don't have any training at all, and they're able to like do all of this stuff, and it's making it like, why are you gonna go train at the White Tower anyway? Because like it just wouldn't make any sense. But that's just not how weaves are supposed to be handled. I'm hoping they'll fix those things going into the second season, and I don't know, we'll have to see with that. But that's sort of my like big complaint right now. I thought they did a really good job sort of going full circle, especially with Nynaeve and Egwene's relationship. Even though I sort of had my complaints, they go back to listening to the winds, and they hear all these Trollocs coming, and basically the whole city is going in an uproar, trying to get all of the basically foreigners out of the city so they could be safe, and then all the people that live in the city are basically going to stand and fight against the Trollocs. I don't really like how this battle was handled either. There's a lot of complaints about this episode. There is a lot of complaints that I do have about this episode, but I promise we'll be able to get through it and not just be huge negative people about it. But I didn't like that they set up that like the city was arming and getting ready, and then all it came down to was just like a circle of women who were able to obliterate everything. It sets up really good stuff for later on about burning out and all of this stuff, and what it means, the cost of channeling and stuff like that. But just don't set up that like people getting ready to fight when like we don't even see them fight. We just see like some people going to that wall, which yeah, a lot of complaints about sort of how that battle went down. But I thought that was I don't think that was set up all that well. I do like though when they get to like the cage of the Dark One and we get to see the seal and all of this stuff, and that like Moraine is going to be with Rand until the end. We actually see like, yes, she is going to be there to care for him, but like she will kill him if she needs to because he could join like the Dark One basically. And I like how their final battle sort of went about, because in the books this final thing is like, it's very weird what's going on. Rand's like battling in the sky, and there's like all this other stuff going on, and he's like killing all these Trollocs with the one power, and it is kind of crazy. Like, yes, the criticism of like weaving and not really knowing how in the show is sort of like the same for the books at points, but that's because Robert Jordan was like trying to figure out the magic system still in the first book. When we get later on in the series, we know that it's more complex than that, and I was hoping that the show would be able to like start with that rather than it be like, this is all ambiguous. But anyway, another tangent, I'll like stop with that. But I like how all of that was handled, and he was able to use the Sa'angreal and basically, and then to like save the day, but end up not really saving the day because he ended up breaking the seal, which caused the dude to like smile while he was evaporating away. And this sort of ending scene with him and Moraine was handled weird because he was just like, the job's done, like just tell them I died, and then he walks away, and then like Land comes like just a little bit later, and then Moraine's just like, oh wait, no, I don't think this is the end, this is the beginning, because like this like stone that can never be broken is broken. It's just weird. It's weird how it plays out. It had to play out the way that it did so they could be the way that season 2 is probably going to start off, which is sort of reminiscent of book 3, I believe, of Rand sort of being separated from all of the group. So you can see that they are going to be pulling storylines from book 2 and book 3. Yeah, so that was all sort of weird, handled all weird, and also I had the expectation of like Rand just going like God mode and destroying everything, which isn't what happened, but this is definitely how conflicts are resolved in the Wheel of Time at points. But I'm hoping that we see the other side of Wheel of Time where there like conflicts are resolved with like awesome battles, especially with Rand. I have a few things that I don't really want to be changed all that much in the books, and a lot of them is Rand's climax moments and really awesome things, and I'm like, okay, we've gotten rid of one. Are we gonna do that the entire series? We won't know until we see it. It just scares me that we're gonna like have more moments where it's supposed to be these really awesome moments for characters, and that doesn't happen, and it happened in season 1 finale. Like, that's just a fact. So I'm hoping it doesn't happen again, but I'm hoping they keep more moments, and maybe they get rid of some. I don't know. We're just gonna have to see. And basically, to just wrap this up, yeah, we see the girls and they're in a circle, and basically it just looks like Nynaeve and Egwene have so much power flowing through them, that this girl that's in charge of all of them, she has like no real formal training, or she didn't pass the accepted test, and she just like basically burns all of them out because she doesn't know how to handle how much power is coming from Egwene and Nynaeve. That's kind of how I like took it. And then they obviously destroy all of these Trollocs, so you see how like powerful they all are. Yeah, and all in all, yeah, and it's like weird because, and then I talked about earlier how Egwene's just like, I'm just sad, and now I'm able to like heal Nynaeve. That's all really weird. I didn't even really touch on like Perrin's conflict, not knowing what to do, and he needs to like do something, but he doesn't want to fight. And oh God, it's just like, it's a little frustrating right now, but I'm hoping things get better in season 2. I'm hoping Perrin finally finds himself eventually. But yeah, this whole thing with Pot and Fane, which I actually thought was cool, and them digging up the horn, I actually really like that. I like that the horn was there. And then we get this whole thing where the Fades basically are like killing the people, and they stab Loyal, like Pot and Fane stabs Loyal, which is so weird. But the theory that I hear is that Loyal was supposed to be Perrin, and then Perrin was supposed to be Matt, and it was Matt's conflict with Pot and Fane, and Perrin got stabbed because he didn't want to fight back. Yeah, it just like all weird. It just sucks because like all the stuff that happened with Barney Harris and all of that all got jumbled up. So I get the reasons why they did what they did, but still, man, like it's all just jumbled and all kind of weird. I'm hoping that they will basically pick up the ball after it was dropped after this conclusion. And the Shan looked okay, I think. I think they kind of looked a little weird, but that's fine. I thought the tidal wave was super cool, what they did with that, but it was also weird that it's like, why are you doing this huge tidal wave when this one little girl is there? I don't really know what's going on, but anyway, I do give this episode, I think that a lot of the shots were really cool. I thought some of the payoff for the characters was fine. I just had expectations at a certain place where I wanted at least Nynaeve to see Rand go like God mode, and him going God mode, destroying all those Trollocs. It's fine. I think that season 1 was supposed to be like Egwene's season, or more like Egwene and Nynaeve's season. Because you could definitely tell that with their relationship the entire time. And I think that next season is hopefully going to be like Perrin, Matt, and Rand's season. But we'll see. More of that to come when we finally get more information of what's going on. What did you guys think about the end of the season? What's your sort of thoughts on it right now? I'm very curious to hear from you guys. I'll be doing a season review that'll come up very shortly, probably this week, when I'm able to get to it. I'm very curious to hear from you guys. I think I give this one like a 6.4. Something like that, around that area. It sort of just fell flat for me, but it was still filmed very well. I thought the writing was still decent. It just wasn't what I was expecting, so my enjoyment went down because of it. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. I'll be bringing more Wheel of Time stuff in the future. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.